Hi.
Hi.
I don't know how anyone on planet Earth can follow what you just saw. I don't care what my bio says. I don't care what I've done. That was unbelievable. That was just unbelievable. For the entire time I'm up here, I'm going to be wondering how I could find 100 days.
Yeah.
Like, where in the world could I find 100 days? And then I'm actually, now I'm saying it out loud, I'm trying to figure out, what do I have to do that's more important? I can't imagine. Anyway, thanks so much for that introduction, Rob, and thanks to Z for putting this on. And this is an awfully crowded pre-conference day, so thanks to all of you for being here. Before we start, in the very back of the program, on the last page before notes, there's an ad for the Digital Leadership Academy. Now, none of you know what that is, because it's brand new. However, I'll be fine. However, you should know what it is. Now, we started this organization this year, and the idea was that we were going to promote and foster STEM education. It's all written down there. But I can summarize this a little bit better for you. The idea is that we have to figure out a way to make it cool to be smart one more time in America, and then the rest of the world. Because for some reason, and I don't know why that is, it's no longer cool to be smart. And that's making me very sad. We have a secondary thing that we're hugely dedicated to, and I'm begging for your help today, because this is going to require the help of some super smart people. I heard both candidates for president get up in front of the nation and say they wanted to educate our youth for high-paying jobs in the tech sector. And there were all kinds of different ways that every candidate and their platforms talked about that. I have been to, I don't know how many New York State and other states' economic development organizations, dinners and parties, hearing the same story from educators far and wide. Here's my problem. I don't know what education is in the 21st century. I know one thing for sure, that everyone in this room has a smart device in their pocket. Some of them, or you are using them right this moment. And that device allows you to outsource your memory, outsource your fact-finding, outsource your wayfinding. We are living in an age of outsourced part of brains. And I don't know what it means to be educated for the 21st century, but I know for a fact it's not the same way I was educated in the 18th or 19th century, or even the 20th century. So with your help and the help of all of the smart people that I know, we're going to figure out what is a baseline of education in the 21st century, what does it mean, and how do we start to educate? Now, like many of you, I can see some of you out there are approximately the age where you might have some children in college. My youngest is a senior at a institution of higher learning on the East Coast, a snooty seven-sister school. And I'm going to drop somewhere on the order of $250,000 for this undergraduate degree. I'd like to know what the ROI, and this is a name brand school, hardcore name brand school, and I'm trying to figure out the ROI. And this kid wears 1 of 3 watches, drives 1 of 3 cars, went to 1 of 3 undergraduate schools, and now is a senior. And I'm thinking to myself, what he learned in his Python programming class in his freshman year is completely obsolete, and he's a senior. Every single thing he learned that they taught him that wasn't about how to critically think is meaningless. And that's just in this 4 years. Imagine what my little 4-year-old granddaughter is going to go through. You can solve that problem with me by getting involved in the Digital Leadership Academy as we get big corporate environments to think about what does education mean? What's a new vocational training? What does the Khan Academy, what are they onto? What is YouTube onto? We need to know that. You need to help. And please, 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 please try and get involved. All you have to do is go to digitalleadershipacademy.org and just get involved. It's a really simple thing. Then, once you give us your name and address and contact information, we'll torture you for your brain and your money. Thank you. Okay, now, hey, look, I'm not in any way beneath begging, so I will get on bent knee. Here's the thing. We are here today with 3 extraordinary people. We're going to talk about content, creativity, and execution. Does anyone know where those 3 words come from, where they are most used? They're in the television industry. I just finished my 4-year stint as president of the Emmy Awards. And when we judge the Emmys, we judge for content, creativity, and execution. There's a little 5 boxes. You put a star in each one, and whoever gets 5 stars in each by all the judges, they get an Emmy Award. Isn't that fun? Now you know you can give people Emmys. Content, creativity, and execution is the underpinning of the other part of the TV industry, which is its job. And the job of television, in case any of you are wondering, is to lull the masses into buying things with money they don't have, and with things they don't need. And the way we do that is by informing, enlightening, and entertaining. So those are the criteria for television. It should inform, enlighten, and entertain, and you judge it by its content, creativity, and execution. Isn't that awesome? We're not going to talk about any of that. But I just wanted you to know that's where the panel gets its name from. So we don't introduce people here, but we are going to introduce, these panelists are going to introduce themselves as we talk about and have a Socratic discussion for your entertainment about how content, creativity, and execution can be put to excellent use to help all of you raise social consciousness about your issues. Let's start with Ross. Go.
Hi, it's great to be here. My name's Ross. I'd rather be on that ship with Desmond Tutu. Hoping I can get on that ship. I'm an executive vice president at Viacom Media Networks, and I run an innovation engine slash cultural engineering firm called Scratch. And what we do is we work across Viacom's pretty vast portfolio to tap its power in new ways. And we do that. About 1/3 of our work is internal, and about 2/3 of our work is external. I think recently we're most famous for our work with General Motors, Dr. Pepper Snapple Group, Lady Gaga's Born This Way Foundation, and the Guggenheim Museum. And that's all I can tell you because I'm not allowed to tell you anything else.
You crass commercial bastard. What are you doing here? No, I'm just... See, this is going to be one of those panels. Elisa, tell us what's going on Skype.
Hi, I'm Elisa Steele, and I'm feeling very inadequate because my goals are not unreasonable enough. So that is definitely on my to-do list. I have the great privilege of running Skype marketing, and as part of that organization, we have made a lot of investment in breaking down barriers for education, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about that today.
Paul?
I'm Paul Polizzotto. I'm the business work.
No, switch up. Yeah, they should be that way too.
No? Yeah, there we go. I'm Paul Polizzotto. I am the founder and president of CBS EcoMedia. Although I'm in the media business and work in the television business, I'm not from the media business. I'm actually from the area of public-private partnerships. And I was interested in how we could create an ad model to fund the nation's most effective nonprofits taking on the most urgent social issues of our time. And I saw the ad business very, very differently. And listening to Daniel, you asked the question, has your enterprise been wildly successful or effective? After listening to Daniel, I retract my hand. This is just amazing. But what I was interested in was how, in fact, I started EcoMedia as a nonprofit. And I found myself taking this shrinking charity pie, foundation pie, particularly in the economy, and slicing it. All right. Thank you. So more pieces.
We always buy all of our
What's wrong with this? Help me.
because of this.
Is this what you said by it's going to be one of these panels? In any case, we should look at all these things. Taking this shrinking charity pie and slicing it into more pieces. And what was worse than that was, I started EcoMedia as a nonprofit and found that I was taking money away from nonprofits that I thought were doing really great work. And what was worse than that, I was competing against them. And so I looked at an ad model and said, there's a chance to take the hundreds of billions of dollars that are going to be spent advertising to the American people and direct that towards nonprofits in the area of the environment, health, and education, and improve the quality of people's lives from everyday ad campaigns. And that's what we're doing. And it's super gratifying work.
We only have one microphone, and that's because it's a charity function. Could you maybe get us some other microphones with some actual batteries in them? That would just be really awesome. Thanks. Okay, so back to our story. Content, creativity, and execution for social good. Basically what we're talking about now is something everybody wants to do, which is bring awareness, and bring awareness in a big way, because everyone likes to fight above their weight. So let's have a Socratic discussion about fighting above your weight, right? Because everyone likes to do that. Discuss.
I'd like to be under my weight.
Yeah.
I'll go last.
To be a little bit of a contrarian here, I think content is in some ways at times overrated. That as a media company, sometimes we think we're doing our work just by getting the word out about issues, and that take the issue of health. Never before in history has more information been available about our health, and we find ourselves not as healthy as we were, at least as it relates to diabetes and obesity, as we were 30 years ago. So is getting the information out having the desired impact that we want? No, and so we sort of felt like we had to put that type of messaging in context, that if you're going to talk about green, surround people in greening, in the action of it. If you were going to talk about education, get out into the schools and do something about it, get involved. And if you're going to talk about health, surround people in wellness. The information alone is not going to do it. And we've got to get out and put it in context. And I think that content in context can be highly effective.
I work in a company that thankfully has pro-social in its DNA from the beginning, especially at MTV, also Nickelodeon and Comedy Central, and does a lot of good in the world and in the U.S. My approach is that it's why I work where I work. It's why I love where I work. And even though it is not in my job description, CSR is the job of everybody at Viacom. And that's a very real thing. And for me, what it means is, there are a lot of people I saw raise their hands that you work for profit corporations. And my take on that is that while you're there, while you're at a company like Microsoft or at Viacom, and you have the ability to affect change on a grand scale every minute of the day, it's on you to take advantage of that and to live up to that responsibility in the way that you can. And if you're not willing to do that, then step aside and give someone else your spot, because it's a responsibility and it's a privilege to work when you can reach so many people so quickly.
Anyone grow up? Oh, good job. Did anyone grow up watching the Jetsons? Anybody know the Jetsons? When I started working at Skype, I felt like I had just joined the Jetson family because we couldn't use Skype more in terms of how we participate with each other across boundaries, whether you're in this country or that country, whether you're in this group or that group, whatever time of day or night it is, it just breaks down the barriers to be able to talk to each other and to communicate and participate. And one of the magical things around that is the program that Skype has called Skype in the Classroom, where it breaks down those barriers for children. And it's in such an inspiring way because, obviously, I think it's obvious, when I grew up, this technology didn't exist. And to watch children through their teachers and through the passion of being able to share across boundaries, discover things that they would never, ever be exposed to until they were able to later in life have the wealth or the resources or the luck to be able to have these experiences. It's just absolutely amazing. I've watched children participate in these sessions over Skype in the Classroom that go anywhere from Africa to the UK to third world countries to the United States and back. And there's always a special bond that's created that breaks down cultural barriers, financial barriers, travel barriers, to be able to have discussions of things that are of passion points for them or things that they're trying to learn in a different way than just reading a textbook. And so that's why I'm here today, and that's why Skype, we continue to make investments in this, because it's kind of the essence of our brand, to be able to share things when you're apart, and there couldn't be a better way than to do that in education and to break down those barriers for kids.
Remember that episode of the Jetsons where Judy gets a video call and she hasn't done her hair and she presses the button and the Judy with the full hair and makeup goes on the screen as opposed to Judy? Could you guys work on that?
When you do join Skype, for the gals in the audience, you kind of give up on the hair and makeup because you're just always on Skype and video all the time, and you just have to go genuine.
As you can tell, that's very important to me. I'm having a bad hair day right now. Every day is a bad hair day. Okay, so I have a question for you guys. We love to call attention to stuff by either being sensational or everybody tries to design viral. Everybody's trying to, and of course, the job of all media is to be seen and to be heard. I think sometimes what happens is we become inaccessible, and the inaccessibility of the technology or the tech part of the technology scares a lot of people. We also find that as much as we want to put technology out there, we are dealing with institutions that are not necessarily technical. So how have you, in your experiences, how have you sort of dealt with those two things, the accessibility issue and also the fact that just the word tech is highly frightening to a lot of people because it screams change and not necessarily in a positive way?
I just have a quick thought on that, which is in obviously the area of education, especially in public schools, it's not that technology is at the fingertips of all these schools and all these teachers. And it's also not that it's always everybody's comfort zone. So they don't not everybody leans into it as part of the new curriculum. And what I think we found is it's not about the fact that they don't want to, it's about fear, that it's going to be hard, that they're not going to be able to succeed, that there's a hurdle there that they don't understand or don't feel like they can do on their own. So it's really about educating the educators and giving them experiences that really enlighten them. I watched, just because it's here, an example I can use today, I watched a 6th grade class who's here in the Bay Area establish a first call with a classroom in Korea. And that classroom got along so well. It's a Korean classroom who's learning English. They decided to form a book club. And so now they meet every month, and they're reading the same books in class. And so they're conversing not only about the book, but they're learning across cultural and language barriers how to communicate.
They're learning Gangnam Style.
So, yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm sure they are. And I think that's a good example of that particular teacher in the classroom in the Bay Area in the middle of tech. She was really uncomfortable with, what does this mean? How do I get this even started? But just having one 10-minute experience of learning how to log on and how to get, gosh, this is easy. How can I do this again? How can I get this scheduled? And then they're off and running. So I think there's just this education hurdle that once you get through, people find empowerment and go for the good of the cause.
One of the ways we sort of worked around it was to focus more on the distribution than the content. I remember my first meeting, you talk about sounding insane. CBS was interested in buying our company, and I was at 52nd and 6th, which is BlackRock, our CBS headquarters. And they said, our power to improve communities is our content. I said, I sort of think it's your distribution. Trapped in the sale of ad time is the ability to carve off money to actually fund projects that have a tangible and measurable impact. And I said, advertising's like the sun. And they went, what? And I said, no, think about it. In the next 60 minutes, more energy will hit the surface of the earth from the sun than we will use as a planet in an entire year, and we think we have energy shortages. There's actually no such thing as an energy shortage in the universe. The universe is made up entirely of energy. The question is whether or not we have the intellect and the will to harness it. Advertising's like that in the sense that there's hundreds of billions of dollars spent advertising the American public, yet after a 30-second commercial runs, it is off into the ether. It's gone. But the fact is you can harness human energy, human communication, in this case advertising, for the benefit of the advertiser, the benefit of the consumer, and the benefit of the community. And so when you don't come from an industry, like I'm not from media and advertising, I looked at it very simply. These advertisers over here want to have a conversation with these consumers over here. What's on the minds of these consumers? Jobs, taxes, a better quality of life through a better environment, better health, better education. So if you advertisers, every time you talk to those consumers, address in some tangible and measurable way what's most on their minds, they'll probably pay attention to you. If you don't, they'll probably tune you out. It's a transaction for time. And so if you think about it in the most granular way, okay, you can have free comedy, drama, traffic, weather, sports, and music in exchange for ads, among other things. And so if I were to fill up a computer full of content and sit outside a grocery store at 6 o'clock at night while everyone was running in to get their groceries, and I said, hey, I know you're in a hurry, give me 30 seconds of your time, and I'll show you something I think might make you laugh. I don't have time, I gotta go. How about 30 seconds of your time, I'll give you some sports scores and a weather forecast. I'll get them off the internet tonight, I gotta go. How about 30 seconds of your time, and I'll put people back to work in this community. I'll save you money as a taxpayer through lower environmental health and educational costs. I'll put solar panels on our parks and community centers. I'll feed kids healthier meals in schools. And that's what we're doing at CBS and EcoMedia. People go, 30 seconds? Yeah, 30 seconds. We're turning viewers into volunteers. If a brand wants 30 seconds of your time, okay, my terms are the access to the portal of my mind is do something for my community, and we can talk all day. And I think, you know, I can't say what the technical devices we'll be using in the future, what media platforms. But I think that the future of advertising is less about where an advertiser reaches you and more about what they do for you when they do. When they interrupt and say, time out, give me 30 seconds of your time to tell you about the virtues and benefits of my product and service, and if you give me those 30 seconds, I will improve the quality of your life and the community you live in. Hit me with it. And that's where I think advertising needs to go, and I think where human communication needs to go, where there's some real, tangible, lasting benefit that comes from those conversations.
I'm still working on advertising's like the sun. Yeah, I mean, advertising could go there. Ross, advertising's like the sun.
Has gone there.
Discuss.
Raise your hand if you're a millennial. Okay, raise your hand if you own one. There are two different conversations happening. There's the conversation we're having in here, and then there's the life that millennials are creating for us out there. And while to us we talk about technology or digital or social, and we've given all these things names, they've grown up with external hard drives. They are the closest things that we have to bionic men and women. And so as we talk about the velocity of change, and we talk about technology, and we talk about how Shelly's youngest son has to relearn all the coding he learned because it doesn't make sense anymore in the 21st century, the education system cannot keep up. Employers cannot keep up. Well, millennials are creating that world for us. It's not moving too fast for millennials. It's just moving too fast for those of us in rooms like this who are talking about them. So it's hard for me to answer the question about technology like that. But I will say, in response to Paul's comment about content, and I'm happy to let CBS be a distribution company. Viacom is a content company, and to us, content is more king than ever before.
No, I
just
meant
messing with you.
content in context.
I know,
Because CBS would argue that they've got
I know.
the best content out there.
I'm just
and
setting you up
not
in social
arguing
Soon I will
against
need
that.
to separate these boys. We just cannot let them play this way on
It
stage.
used to be the same company back in the day.
Keep going.
I'm good.
No, it's all right.
What do you want?
Well, you just threw down the gauntlet and told us all we're all so old and decrepit that we can't possibly in any way relate to what's
All right,
actually
Shelly,
happening.
there's good news. Here's the good news.
Really?
right?
Good, 'cause I was
The good
waiting
news
for it.
is that millennials in the United States, the largest generational cohort in our history, the most diverse, the most overeducated and underemployed, that generation, the good news is, that generation is millennializing the rest of us.
Did they save money on their car insurance?
What's a car?
Good point. Yeah, by the way, the purchase cycle for a car now, anybody, was 3 years. Now what is it? Purchase cycle, car, United States. It drives the whole economy. Everyone in this room has a car. We live in a car culture. What's the purchase cycle of a car now? It's 11 years. Buy American.
Average age of getting your first driver's license, what is it?
It used to be 16. Now it's 22?
24.
24. Ouch. Now, Ross knows this because he has the greatest presentation you guys have ever seen called...
I don't know what it's called.
Oh, yes, you do. He has the Millennials presentation, which is awesome. If you haven't seen it, corner Ross and make him go to your company and show your company the Millennials presentation. It's killer.
But it's customized for each of your companies. So it's totally different. So you'll never see
why
the
the
same
fees
one.
are different.
Yeah, and it'll be extremely expensive. But for you, good price.
Content, creativity, execution. Advertising's like the sun, which is awesome. And I knew what you meant. I just like saying it because and there are people I want to go say that to so much. I can't even tell you. I'm going to steal that immediately. So
Wait, Shelly, can we ask him? Is this Socratic? Can we?
yeah, you
can I
can
ask
do
him?
anything you want.
So, if advertising is like the sun, ratings are like what?
Well, it's interesting. I'm gonna answer this in another sort of perspective of the universe. That the one thing about media is this inventory constraint, and that there's this scarcity, and that there's this abundance in the universe. And I think going forward, what we're interested in, at least at EcoMedia and CBS, is to be part of making any conversation across any device, across any platform, more meaningful, and giving people reasons to communicate. Because what is media? Media is just humans communicating across, whether it's comedy or drama or traffic or whether it's sports or just like-minded people talking about things. We would like at EcoMedia to insert ourselves in those conversations where every time people speak to one another, something meaningful happens in the world. And so the ratings question is a scarcity one. And I'm really interested in how we start a conversation where there's scarcity on television and move it to a second screen where there's abundance. And I really like where media is going in terms of abundance. And because I think that, obviously it's the future. That's why most of you are in this room.
Let's be clear. Network advertising time and prime time is scarce, and there's plenty of other television inventory, more than anyone would like there to say. We have about 2 minutes left, and here's what I'd like to do. I would like each of you to give a short but concise key takeaway for this audience, how they could use the power of creative the power of that is the empowerment of creative, uniquely from your lens, because to a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So just from where your perspective is, key takeaway. Ross, key takeaway.
Having no time to prepare for that question, I'm going to give you two quotes from two very different poets in two very different generations. The first, and then I'll say the poet after the quote. Do I dare disrupt the universe? Eliot. The second, I searched hard to find something new. Sigh. People don't know who Psy is? Okay. Oh, come on. Korean, yeah, okay. Gangnam Style. There's a guy
That's
dancing
Gangnam Style. You guys didn't get that. That's terrifying.
I think the answer is audacity, and I think we just heard it in the panel before us, being unreasonable, and being happy to be misunderstood.
Sorry, my life.
Since we talked about Socrates and we're doing quotes, I guess I'll quote what he said, which is, "I know that I know nothing." And so I guess my contribution would be for all of us to continue to seek and yearn for that learning and not give up on that. We okay back there?
Is everything okay? Okay.
Good.
Because you scared the hell out of us. So if you're okay, that's great.
Since we're closing with quotes, I would say I sought excitement in taking chances. I was all ready to fail to achieve something truly grand. Raymond Loewy.
Okay, well, I'm not going to quote anybody because, wow, have I already been out-quoted. But I am going to thank this extraordinary panel. Remember, shameless plug, Digital Leadership Academy. Try and tap Ross on the millennial presentation because you haven't seen it. It's awesome. Let's give it up for these fantastic panelists. Thank you so very much.